Trade rumors are heating up in Boston, and with the preseason fast approaching, the pressure is on for Brad Stevens to fine-tune this Celtics roster before the real games begin. We've already seen a flurry of moves this offseason. Some big names gone, new faces coming in, but the feeling around the organization is that Stevens is not quite done yet. There's still the matter of the luxury tax, that pesky first apron, and an overall sense that this team needs just a bit more balance before tipping off a new campaign with championship expectations. From day one of the offseason, Stevens has made it clear that financial flexibility is a major priority. And with the new CBA rules tightening the leash on big spending franchises, the Celtics find themselves in a delicate balancing act. Stay competitive at the highest level while also ducking under the cap thresholds that trigger harsher penalties down the line. That's not an easy ask, especially when your core is built around two superstars commanding max contracts. But that's exactly the situation in Boston, and it's why trade talks are more than just smoke. They're the logical next step in this team's evolution. So the question becomes, what can Boston realistically do to improve the roster without making a financial mess? There have been whispers around the league, some trade proposals floated, and a few potential targets that would not only fit the Celtics system, but also bring them closer to that elusive goal of cap relief without sacrificing on-court performance. One of the more discussed ideas involve a move that sends Anthony Simons to Boston in exchange for DeMar DeRozan, along with a second-round pick heading out from the Celtics. Now, on paper, this deal has some interesting wrinkles. DeRozan is a proven scorer of veteran presence and a guy who can create his own shot in crunch time. That kind of experience is always valuable on a team with championship goals. But there are serious questions about how well he'd fit in this system. Stylistically, DeRozan's mid-range heavy, isolation-based game feels like a bit of an awkward pairing next to Jaylen Brown, who already shares a lot of the same tendencies. The Celtics have spent the last few years building a roster that prioritizes spacing, ball movement, and three-point shooting, and DeRozan, for all his talents, doesn't really check those boxes. Add to that the fact that he's on a 2-year deal, while Simons is on an expiring contract. That matters in a big way when you're trying to manage the luxury tax. Bringing in DeRozan ties up more long-term money and could limit flexibility down the road, particularly when you consider that Jason Tatum's next contract is going to be absolutely massive. And while no one's ruling out Tatum for this season entirely, most signs point to a very cautious approach, meaning his full return may not come until next year. That makes it even more important that any deals made now don't box the team into a corner long-term. On the flip side, if you're the Kings, this could be a smart way to bet on youth. Anthony Simons is younger, has upside, and gives them a scoring guard who can grow alongside their current core. And financially, it gives them a quicker out from DeRozan's contract. But from Boston's perspective, this deal feels more like a step sideways than forward. It doesn't solve the tax problem, it doesn't fit the playing style perfectly, and unless you're incredibly high on what DeRozan can bring a playoff series, it's hard to get excited about this one. Maybe it looks good on paper, but the fit raises a lot of flags. Another proposal making the rounds features Sam Hauser, a name that's quietly been on the radar for months as a potential trade chip. Despite being a consistent contributor from deep and a solid rotational piece, Hauser's name has popped up repeatedly in rumors. It makes sense. He's a valuable shooter on a very team-friendly contract, which makes him a desirable asset for contenders or any team looking to stretch the floor. One idea that's come up is a move that sends Hauser out and brings back Nick Richards, someone who could slot in as a small ball center and provide depth to Boston's frontcourt. This trade works financially and fits the larger goal of getting below the luxury tax threshold. Brad Stevens clearly wants more roster flexibility and getting a cost-controlled big man who can eat up minutes in the regular season while offering a different look off the bench fits that mold. Nick Richards might not be a name that turns heads immediately, but he's shown flashes with the Hornets and could be in line for a bigger role in a new environment. Boston wouldn't be relying on him to anchor the defense, but as part of front-court rotation that includes other versatile bigs, he could definitely have a role. The Suns, who would be receiving Hauser in this scenario, could be looking for a cheaper shooting option to replace someone like Grayson Allen. Allen's contract might be one they're eager to move off of, and Hauser would give them a more budget-friendly alternative without much drop-off in terms of shooting. For Boston, the upside is clear: get off money, keep a solid rotation intact, and continue setting up for long-term flexibility. And look, let's be honest, this Celtics team isn't lacking in shooting. Even if Hauser goes, they've still got guys who can knock it down from deep, and more importantly, they've got the kind of elite defense that can withstand the loss of a specialist shooter. The goal here isn't just to save money, it's to get more balanced across the roster. Bringing in a big like Richards gives Joe Mazzulla a different type of weapon, especially when matchups call for more size or physicality in the paint. But the trade that's really gaining traction, the one that might make the most sense from both a basketball and financial standpoint, involves a familiar partner in the Utah Jazz. Now, Boston and Utah have a long history of dealing with each other, and Danny Ainge still calling the shots out there certainly helps get conversations going. The potential move here? Sam Hauser to Utah in a deal that brings back Walker Kessler. This one has real legs. Kessler is exactly the type of big man the Celtics have been searching for. He rebounds, he protects the rim, he plays hard, and he's on a rookie contract. That's a rare combination, and it checks a ton of boxes for a Boston team that's still figuring out what its frontcourt rotation will look like this season. Yes, they've got Nemi Quetta coming off a strong international performance, and guys like Luka Garza and Chris Boucher who can fill in the five. But if you want to remove all doubt about the center position, Kessler is a name that makes a lot of sense. Slot him into that starting lineup, and suddenly you've got a young, mobile big who can complement Tatum and Brown without demanding touches or disrupting spacing. Defensively, he gives you a safety net at the rim, something that becomes even more important if Al Horford's minutes need to be managed or if Porzingis isn't fully healthy. And the kicker? You're not just losing Hauser's shooting and getting nothing in return. In this trade, Boston would also bring back SVI Mykhailiuk, a guy who's been here before, knows the system, and can still give you quality minutes off the bench. SVI isn't Hauser, but he's a capable shooter who understands his role and won't try to do too much. That's exactly the kind of bench player this team needs, especially if they're aiming for another deep playoff run. You want guys who know the system, can step in without hesitation, and don't require months to acclimate. SVI fits that bill, and if the Celtics can pull off a deal that nets them a rim protector and a serviceable shooter, while shedding salary and creating cap space, that's a win all around. Of course, trades like this come with some tough decisions. To make room for Kessler and SVI, Boston would likely need to waive someone, and the name that keeps coming up is Xavier Tillman. A lot of people were high on him when he signed, comparing him to a young Al Horford, but it just hasn't worked out. He hasn't carved out a real role, and with so much competition in the front court, there's simply not enough opportunity for him to stick around if a deal like this goes down. Letting go of Xavier Tillman might seem harsh to some fans who were hopeful he could blossom in Boston, but the reality is that this roster is stacked with players who can do what he does, and in most cases, do it more efficiently or with higher upside. There hasn't been a clear pathway for Tillman to break into the regular rotation, and unless something drastically changes, he's likely the odd man out. Especially if you bring in someone like Walker Kessler, who's not only more established as a rim protector, but also fits the Celtics' long-term plans in a much clearer way. The NBA is a business, and this would be one of those moves that's less about emotion and more about efficiency and roster construction. What stands out about this potential Jazz-Celtics deal is that it's one of the few options that actually hits all the major boxes for Brad Stevens. It lowers the financial burden, it strengthens a key area of need, and it brings back players who are ready to contribute right now. For a team trying to stay out of the first apron while also contending for a championship, that's the dream scenario. And while it might sting to lose a shooter like Hauser, the value you get back here arguably outweighs the cost. That's really what this next stretch of the offseason is about for Boston, maximizing value. With Media Day and training camp around the corner, the front office doesn't just want to throw together a roster that looks good on paper. They want a group that's balanced, sustainable, and versatile enough to weather a long season and another grueling playoff run. That means getting younger, getting cheaper, and getting players who fit within Joe Mazzulla's evolving system. Kessler, in particular, fits that mold better than most. He's still on a rookie deal, so there's no pressure to renegotiate any contracts right away. He's shown he can rebound, block shots, and finish around the rim. He doesn't need plays drawn up for him, which is key when you've already got stars like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown commanding the offense. And defensively, he has the instincts and timing to anchor a second unit or even step into a starting role if needed. For all the promise that Neemias Queta or Luka Garza have shown, neither offers the same level of proven production at the NBA level that Kessler does right now. The timing of all this matters too. With the league's financial landscape shifting under the new CBA, teams like the Celtics can't afford to wait around and hope things magically work out. They have to be proactive, not just with the trades they make, but with the contracts they take on and the roster spots they allocate. Every dollar matters now. And while Boston's ownership has shown a willingness to spend, there's a clear effort from the front office to be smart about how that money is spent. This offseason wasn't just about getting talent. It was about getting the right kind of talent. That's why Brad Stevens has been so calculated with every move. Swapping out higher salary veterans for younger, cheaper pieces. Signing role players who can slot into multiple positions. Keeping one eye on the immediate future while also preparing for what comes next when Jason Tatum likely signs a supermax deal. Every trade rumor, every potential transaction, it's all being filtered through the lens of sustainability. And that's what makes these rumored trades so intriguing. They're not just reactive moves, they're strategic pieces of a larger puzzle. Let's not forget the Celtics are still operating as one of the league's premier contenders. The pressure is on to deliver a title, and that means every roster spot matters, every role player matters, and every rotation decision matters. Bringing in someone like Walker Kessler isn't just about upgrading talent. It's about solidifying the defensive identity that has made this team so dangerous over the past few years. For all the talk about offense, threes, and pace, Boston's bread and butter has always been their ability to shut teams down. Kessler helps maintain that standard. Adding someone like SVI Mikhailiuk on the wing further balances the scales. He may not have the consistency of a guy like Hauser, but he's a capable shooter, he moves well off the ball, and he's already familiar with the Celtics culture. That kind of plug-and-play ability is incredibly valuable in a long season where injuries and rotation tweaks are inevitable. When you're fighting for seeding and home court, having players who can step in and contribute without needing time to adjust is a luxury most teams don't have. The Celtics could if this trade goes through. From a basketball perspective, the front office seems intent on fixing one major issue from last season: frontcourt depth. With Al Horford aging, Porzingis' health always being a question mark, and Robert Williams now gone, Boston needs to build a foundation of reliable bigs who can log minutes and take pressure off the stars. That's what makes someone like Kessler so important. He doesn't just fill a roster spot. He addresses a very real structural issue that could define the team's ceiling this season. And if the Celtics can shore that up while still protecting their financial flexibility, that's a masterstroke. But before we continue, please remember to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest news about the Boston Celtics. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. In what could be the offseason's most shocking move, whispers across the league suggest that OG ANUNOBY has agreed to join the Boston Celtics, potentially forming one of the most formidable trios in the NBA alongside Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Sources close to the situation, who spoke on the condition of anonymity, claim that talks have moved quickly in recent days, with ANUNOBY drawn to the Celtics' championship aspirations and the chance to pair with two of the league's brightest stars. ANUNOBY, known for his defensive versatility and improving offensive game, has long been considered one of the NBA's most coveted wing players. His ability to guard multiple positions, hit timely three-pointers, and attack the rim could provide Boston with the missing piece it has been searching for in its quest to dethrone the Eastern Conference. Rumors indicate that the front office is willing to make significant cap space adjustments to accommodate his signing, signaling that the Celtics are all in on this potential blockbuster. Fans and pundits alike are already buzzing with speculation. Social media channels are ablaze with what-if scenarios, imagining Tatum and Brown flanking ANUNOBY on both ends of the court. Analysts suggest that this trio could redefine Boston's offensive spacing while maintaining one of the league's most intimidating defensive cores. While no official announcement has been made, the mere suggestion of ANUNOBY in green and white has created a palpable sense of excitement and tension among rival teams who may now have to rethink their offseason strategies. Inside sources hint that the move isn't just about talent, it's about culture. ANUNOBY's quiet leadership and work ethic reportedly resonate with Boston's locker room philosophy, making him a natural fit alongside Tatum and Brown. If finalized, this acquisition could mark a turning point for the Celtics, signaling a shift from contender to outright favorite, and potentially sparking a domino effect of roster moves across the league. For now, all eyes remain on Boston, as fans wait with bated breath for confirmation. Could ANUNOBY, Tatum, and Brown become the NBA's most feared trio? The rumor mill certainly thinks so, and if it comes to fruition, the Celtics might just have the ingredients for a historic run. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Boston Celtics, please subscribe to our channel and give the video a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.